Welcome, my friends. This is Dr. Charles Clough from the Church of Truth Center for Awakening Consciousness, and we're glad to be some kind of a part of your spiritual experience for May the 31st, coming up on this Sunday. Let's start with our normal prayer. Gracious God, please leapfrog over the distances so those listening can hear this as if we are all together in our peaceful sanctuary. Well, we were considering this coronavirus for the last several weeks because we're right in the middle of it. And we want to talk a little bit about change and how God's involved in the changes that take place, and we are too. What do we do when our plans get changed? Most of us are reading or listening to the thoughts I'm sharing right now because our plans were altered. Normally we would be sitting in church right now and sharing these thoughts and ideas in our sanctuary. So just the fact that we're listening or reading like we are now shows we're right in the middle of these changes. There are several big adjustments accompanying what's going on, more than this, of course. Not working, thus not making money, not able to get out to do anything, not being close to anyone, this 6-foot thing, having to be around people who we would really not choose to be around, or we're not able to be around people that we would really like to be around. Even extended family, we're not able to shop, we're not able to do a lot of normal things. If we feel somewhat in charge of the changes and the adjustments needed because of what's going on, we're usually okay. When those changes are forced on us, though, it doesn't go over so well. The changes due to COVID-19 have left us feeling like helpless bystanders. We are observers caught in the web of what this virus is doing. Or even more so, what we would know we would like to be doing. I suppose we can say it's fortunate restrictions are loosening up. Remains to be seen, though, if we are wise doing that or whether we should have kept the tight ship longer. Whether or not this relaxing of the rules is permanent is an unknown. But there is one thing we know for sure, we'll find out. When we make changes, we always find out whether they were good or bad, or good or not, because we always experience the results or consequences. We live with what happens. And since there is no time when changes are not being made, we are always in the midst of watching what we are doing as to whether it's working out or not. We are action machines, always going, always doing. Our clocks are always running. There's always movement that's happening. The human body's always busy. It never settles down, never stays the same. Our blood is always flowing. And at the smallest level, our atoms that comprise the matter of our bodies continue to circle at breakneck speed. Planet Earth keeps circling around the sun. That keeps rotating as part of our solar system. Our solar system keeps its engagement with the Milky Way. The Milky Way is mixed in with other global clusters. We may think we stop and don't move, but all the time we are traveling at about 1,037 miles per hour, if standing on the equator, we are never completely still. Never. Now, these comments, of course, relate to physical speed or locomotion. How else are we always moving, though? Well, our thoughts seem to be doing that. Can a mind really stop? Even at night when we think we've checked out, the mind is not stopped at all. We know when we're dreaming, our minds are working. We also know that even when we're not dreaming that our thoughts are going on all the time in our subconscious, in our superconscious. What we're thinking is up for grabs, but something is going on up there, above the neck, that is. We are also on the move spiritually. Our souls are always looking for our life experience to have fulfillment and happiness. God's inner presence won't let us not care about how we are doing. If we could just sit as we are and be happy that way, regardless of how our lives were going, would that be a good thing? We can't find that out, of course, because it doesn't happen. We are always searching for improvement, although we may not understand that that's what our restlessness is saying. Do we know why we are always wanting to upgrade? It's because God doesn't want our life experience to be less than it can be. God, Spirit within, is always goading us, always wanting us to move on. He won't let us sit where we are and do nothing. This is because the Spirit knows how things can be. God has high aspirations for us. We think of what parents want for their children: success, self-realization, happiness, responsible maturity, and more. Do we think God within us wants anything less? Nope. But more, actually. God sees what our potential is. Granting peace from just sitting and doing nothing for long periods of time is not in God's teaching plan. Many of us are uncertain as to what our talents and abilities might actually be. If we would truly release them, what might happen? How might we show up? God is not uncertain about who we could be or what we could do. We haven't discovered everything hidden in us, but God knows what's there. And we may not be driven to find out, but the presence of God within us is. The Spirit sees us like the maker of the computer. Apple knows what its computers can do. God knows everything we can do and we can be. We often underrate ourselves with little idea of what's in there as to our possibilities. But even if it takes an eternity for us to discover and utilize all this wonderful, undiscovered self we are, God's presence won't leave us until we are that. It is always interesting for someone computer literate to take on a new student who knows almost nothing about the machine they have just purchased. They have no idea how much they will be able to do or how much of the world will open up through the internet. When the Spirit takes us on, this God presence has its own vision of a wonderful future that is waiting for us. The Spirit's job is to get that vision across to us, and that happens by constant inner stimulation. The Spirit keeps our minds stirred up. This is why it seems there is never any long-term rest. The Spirit always has us on this journey from where we are to where we are going, from who we are to who we are becoming. This is the clock we are on. This is why nothing stops moving, because everything keeps becoming. We are always happening, always moving ahead. Can't stop it. So we join the movement with all who are growing, whether we want to or not. The ramifications of this COVID-19 virus is a perfect example. We are all living with it happening. We're in the middle of it. And it's part of the moving of history that we are helping to write. Our plans are always changing because we are always having to adapt to what is happening in what we call the present. There really isn't a present. Not for very long, anyway. For as soon as we say now, it's not that now anymore. So the challenge we have is to cooperate with the Spirit within, who will always have us ready for the movement we are in and ready to take. Look at the changes we've had and are making even in our congregation. It's a good sense to see God's presence so clearly evident even in organizations like the church, as well as our personal lives. To understand God as part of who we are, and that this God presence is at the highest level of fulfillment, the highest reach of what being alive can be. And this Spirit within us wants that to be our experience too. That is a grand knowing. Just feel it. Inside of you is this God presence that has the very best in mind and is capable of being that in us and bringing that to us. And we are open to that. We thank God for it and embrace it with hope and faith and joy. And so it is.